Wow.
Imagine how powerful that was.
That was awesome.
Yes, it really was. Good evening.
Hi, Nebs. Hi, everyone.
Yes, welcome to our podcast. We are excited about tonight's topic. We're doing a part two to, you'll see why it's a part two to the age of the earth. It is, can we prove the flood of Noah?
There's a lot of evidence.
There is. I'm
Yeah.
excited to talk about all that evidence. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, we've got some folks in chat. I want to say quick hi and then we'll get right into it. We've got Natalie, Moxie, of course. Thank you, Moxie. We've got Herbie and Nurse Peppa Q. We've got Mike, Deplorable Mike. So we want to say hi to all of you. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to hear your thoughts.
Great to have you here.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't even know where we should get started.
Well, why don't we start with what we know about Noah?
Yeah.
I mean, he lived in what's current day Iraq, and we know his wife and 3 sons and their wives were the only ones that went on the ark, as well as the animals.
Only 8 survivors.
Right. They were the only righteous ones. And so it was a judgment against mankind at the time. It's a very wicked time. So, and it arguably took between 55 and 75 years to build. And it was really big, 45 feet by 75.
It was huge.
By 45 high.
Yeah.
It was massive. And shall I go on?
Well, one of the things is didn't he just have like a 7-day notice to get all of the animals, the different kinds of animals? I believe it was.
Yeah, well, once it was finished, God told him that, he would make it rain in 7 days. So they waited in the ark for 7 days. And it's interesting.
Oh, they waited in the ark? I thought it took him 7 days to get the animals. Okay. So I misunderstood that part.
I think that the door was open, and so the animals were coming in, and that's interesting how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it was on the 2nd month and the 17th day of that month, and the rain came, and he was 600.
Yep, 600 years old.
Yeah. And so
that's going to feed into the age of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Discussion that we will wrap that up at the end as far as that goes. Yeah. So it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And how long were they on the ark after the flood?
It was 371 days total.
So a year.
Yeah. And about 150 days, the water began to recede. But all told, it was 370 days before the ark, 71, before the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat in Turkey. And it was the 7th month, and again, the 17th day. I'm not sure. I know. Isn't that interesting? It's like it started on the 17th day and it ended on the 17th day. But it's interesting that Genesis, we're going to do a little scripture, a lot of science too, but Genesis 7:11 reads that all the sources of the vast watery depths burst open and the floodgates of the sky were open.
Well, the floodgates of the sky.
Yeah. And so like we've all read that, right? I mean, a lot of us, and kind of like never really dawned on me. So I found some interesting things. Then in Genesis 8:2, the sources of the watery depths and the floodgates from the sky were closed. Okay. So the rain came from above and below. And I just want to, go right into this.
Sure.
Yeah. So like, obviously it can rain, the clouds in our atmosphere. We've seen the devastating effects of flooding, but this was a whole different level. And so if you'll come with me a moment, Media 1A.
Sure.
Okay.
This is so interesting to me before we pull it up,
Okay.
because what stands out to me in the Bible is that water came up from the earth. But this, now that you're bringing this up,
Well, we're going to do above first.
yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So
this is interesting.
in Genesis 1:7, it reads, God made the expanse or the sky, sometimes called a vault, depending upon which Bible you use, and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above. So under the sky, above the sky. And this was before the seas and dry land were created, because in the beginning it was a watery mass that God was hovering over, right?
Right.
And so in very recent years, NASA has found water all over the universe. It's in nebulas, which are giant clouds between stars, comets, asteroids, dwarf planets. It's in the atmospheres.
Oh, look at this, ocean worlds.
It really is. It's in the atmospheres and the interiors of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. But this is really incredible.
Whoopsie.
What?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was trying to get the image because I think that's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Okay.
Ocean worlds.
So the most surprising place they discovered are the 5 icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn.
Yeah, that's what like Europa.
Yeah.
Moon of Jupiter.
Yeah. And it shows evidence of oceans beneath their surfaces.
So interesting.
Right? And
I geek out on this stuff.
Me too.
Seriously.
And one of them is named, the name is Ganymede. It has a saltwater subsurface ocean sandwiched between 2 layers of ice. I just, that's amazing. I don't know how they know that, but that is what the report is. And I think that was right around 2017. But there was an interesting quote by NASA. And it reads, the story of Earth's water, from gentle rains to raging rivers, is intimately connected to the larger story of our solar system and beyond. But our water came from somewhere. Every world in our solar system got its water from the same shared source. And yet
we know what that source is.
We do, but they never, go there.
They don't go there.
Right? Yeah. So is it possible that God opened the vault and the water came from outside of our atmosphere? Could be that massive amount of water. But I don't know. I got excited about that. I geeked out on that.
It's so interesting. Before we go to the next one, okay. Moxie wants to know who let the mosquitoes on the ark.
Oh. Well, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, and apparently somebody's noticing my giraffe back here. Moxie named him Bob. It's Bob the giraffe. So, and Prayer Warrior is in chat.
Great. Hey. So what was the other? Okay. So
sorry.
No, it's okay. Why don't I just get this science geek stuff out of the way, since
I've got science all the way through. So
well, as far as where the water might have come from.
Sure.
And, y'all make your, draw your own conclusions, but this came through a science alert just weeks ago. It's
interesting.
Brand new. It's
just when we started researching, huh?
I know. Isn't that wild? I got to tip my brother because he's into science too. But it's Media 1B. And, is this the potential source of the watery depths? So beneath Antarctica, I know there's a lot of mystery shrouded around Antarctica, but scientists have discovered what they believe is an ancient ocean floor deep in the core of the earth.
This is so incredible.
Yeah, right?
This is great.
And so it's about 1,800 miles below the surface, where the molten metallic core meets the rocky mantle. And what they did is they had 15 seismic wave stations. And so they were getting the wave readings.
Oh, interesting.
And it's where they think it's the ancient ocean floor is a sunken crust. It's called the ultra low velocity zone. But then there's super high zones too that are massive mountains, like 5 times higher than Everest.
Wow.
Yeah, and so what they're thinking is that this core, this ancient ocean floor, wraps around the entire core.
Yeah.
Uh,
So interesting.
right?
Yeah. That's super interesting. And that definitely, I mean, that makes sense. It completely makes sense. Well, yeah.
And your video showed that the earth was quaking and there's volcanic, eruptions and plates were shifting, and I mean,
Yeah.
it was violent.
Oh yeah, that was a powerful animation
It really was. It was awesome.
of what was to come.
Yeah.
That's an incredible find. And just to we're going to be geeking out a little bit tonight, so we're going to be talking more about just like the fossils that have been found and the Grand Canyon and how the rocks were formed. It's so interesting because there is so much proof out there.
I learned a lot, actually.
Yeah,
It was really fun.
a lot of the information this was absolutely so interesting to research and find additional. I knew a few things, but I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
And before we get into the fossils and the like the rock formations from Mount Everest, one of the things that I want to point out before we get into those is the fact that water is so powerful. So we have to consider how powerful water is before we delve into it, because then it will be like, yeah, I mean, it's like a no-brainer. One of the things I have to point out ahead of us talking about that stuff is, do you guys remember back in, what year was this? I don't know if I have the year. I don't know if it was 2004-ish when the tsunami hit Indonesia. Okay, so this was just a series of 1, 2, or 3 waves tsunami. So this is I took a screenshot. By the way, if you want more geeky science about the age of the Earth and Noah's Ark, I highly recommend a YouTube channel called what is it called? I'll let you guys know in a second because I have a video from them. But I took a screenshot off of one of the videos. This is the Answers in Genesis. That's the name of the YouTube channel. Yep. This is Indonesia before the tsunami. Okay. And this is Indonesia after, post tsunami. Wow. Now look at how the landscape changed, literally.
Completely.
Right? The water is so powerful. And then I've got a second example. So this is in Japan. In 2010, they had a tsunami as well. And this is the before picture. And then I've got a picture of this a year later after the tsunami. So as we go through some of this evidence, let's just remember how powerful the water is. And the flood was the whole earth. So just imagine, this is just a tiny area here.
Yeah.
So Nurse Peppa Q says, so much proof of petrified giants too. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't pull any of that up, but
that's the Nephilim.
We might, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Nephilim, but petrified?
Uh,
Like fossils or
well, that was part of the reason for the flood because
well, yeah, it was the
the
reason for the flood, but
fallen angels. It was man, but it was also the fallen angels that had bred with the human women and created the men of renown, Goliath, the giants.
so Nurse Peppa Q, if you have like a reference, I would love to see that and look at that. Maybe post that later.
Yeah. I actually didn't think of fossils for that because, well, we're going to look at the lack of human fossils and the reasons potentially.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
talk about that for sure. But Rumble allows links in chat. So feel free to throw any links in there for us to look at. Do
yeah,
we? Yeah. I'm wondering if we should hit the rock strata first because then the fossils will make more sense.
yeah. Well, do you want to quick hit the big questions that come from the doubters?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that, and then we'll jump into the rocks, the strata.
Okay.
Okay, so like, how did Noah get all the animals? People are like, how could he do that, right? And people get caught up on some of these things, these questions, because it just seems like so mind blowing. But in Genesis 6:20, God told Noah that the pairs of animals would come to him, and
Well,
so
not only that, he in Genesis. Okay, so yeah, I actually Genesis 1.
Mhm.
He said that God made the plants and the animals after their kind. And then in Genesis 6:20 that you're referencing,
Mhm.
he said two of every sort after their kind. So like for instance, wolves is one kind of animal, and there might be different subspecies, but I don't think Noah took every single species, like subspecies. Like there's one
Hmm.
dog, right? And there's look at you've got poodles, you've got
Yeah,
what do you what do we have?
we
I
all
have
have
my
wolf DNA,
Oliver,
by the way.
my little Carolina dog here, Oliver. But there's all these different subspecies.
Yeah,
But
all
it's not
all
like he
dogs.
took every single one of those. He took one set of dogs.
Yeah, and every dog they discovered has the DNA of wolves. Like even my little Gigi, my
Yep.
little Maltipoo, had some wolf in her.
Oh shoot! You know what I was going to pull up as a part of this because I knew we'd talk about the different kinds of animals.
Uh-huh.
They maybe I can describe it, but I'm not a scientist, so but they did talk about how um, in your genes, depending on the pairs that you get,
Mm-hmm.
different looks will come up. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's hair color, but
Mm-hmm.
you're still the same kind of animal, or humans even.
Mm-hmm.
So like depending on there's like a AA and a BB, and if you get an A and a B, you likely have Middle Eastern skin.
Right, you're dominant and recessive too. From
Right, but we're
yeah,
all humans. We're all the same race. So
right,
for us to say we have different races is not actually scientifically accurate.
right. Oh, I have something about that too.
Anyway,
Tower of
continue.
Babel.
Sorry, I
Well,
interrupted your
no,
620.
no, it's great. But think about the migratory patterns of animals today. Birds, the wildebeest, all the animals in Africa. I mean, where do they get that? Just saying,
Yeah.
So it's not so far fetched. And uh, let's see. How did the land mammals cross the ocean? And it there's
I have a
yeah,
thought on that too.
right? And before the flood, there may have only been one continent.
One continent, that's where
Did,
my head went.
did you see that? Because in
I
Genesis 1:9, it kind of indicates that let the water under the sky be gathered into one place and let the dry land appear.
well then that speaks about the power of the water, right? It leaves evidence and uh the
After
powerful
the flood.
evidence of a worldwide flood is that we would have had one continent and the flood would have created the seven continents.
Oh yeah. And there's even evidence of that with the tectonic plates and the continental shelves and drifts, or anyway. So, but regardless of that,
Mm-hmm.
it may have happened differently. One day we'll find out, but God did it. Okay, what about the
Wait,
what?
we've got a comment in chat.
Okay,
In God we trust. Natalie says, "Shall we limit our Creator? He can do anything. All the animals that God wanted there were there."
absolutely, amen.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
very good, very true.
thank you for that. That's awesome. A lot of people get hung up on the dinosaurs, and I have read Job many times, and for some reason, okay, so we know that on day 6 the land animals and humans were made together, because a lot of scientists and evolutionists say that the dinosaurs lived long before us, and right, billions of years, and but there's evidence that they lived before and after the flood, not in pre-Adamic times, okay, pre-Adam. Check this out, Job 40:15-24. Look
Mhm.
at Behemoth, which I made along with you, and which feeds on grass like an ox. It goes on to read that the beast is described as so powerful that no one can capture him, with a tail like a cedar tree, not even afraid of raging rivers. And there are dinosaur fossils found in sedimentary rocks laid down by the flood.
Yeah, I've got some additional info on that when we get to the fossils. It's interesting.
Yeah. So, and you could go and read it. It's Job 40:15-24, and so that was after the flood.
Yeah, and in Genesis 7:2, God commanded Noah to take clean beasts by 7 and unclean by 2. He talked about the beasts, and so I saw a biblical philosopher who is Christian saying he's going with the flow with what the scientists say because of their scientific evidence. And I'm thinking, going with the flow,
Wow.
but one of the things he said is like, people never walked with dinosaurs. And I'm like, why are we assuming that? Because I think they did, because uh, God created the animals and Adam and Eve
Yeah.
during those first 6 days.
Yeah. Well, they have scientists, especially evolutionists, or the secular, that are not creationist scientists. They have a vested interest in the Bible not being true, and
But this guy claimed to be Christian, though.
well, then there's the old Earth Christians, but
Well,
science
they have
has,
all different theories, like
yeah,
gaps in time, thinking a
right,
day isn't a day, even though
like the
right in the
days,
Bible it says the daylight and the nighttime, the darkness is night and the daytime is light. And uh, after one morning and one evening, then it was the sixth day. It says that literally.
yeah. I mean, I think I told you before, it's not a hill I would die on. If some believe that after Genesis, the heavens and the earth, that there was a gap, you know, there are Christians that believe that, like billions of year gaps, but I don't personally. But
Right.
anyway,
You just make your case and show whatever
yeah.
evidence.
But I mean, when you look,
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but
yeah,
it doesn't
I'm
change whatever the fact is.
and when we saw it then, when you're doing anything about creation, the Wikipedia and all the stuff you have to sort through. I mean, during this, because I was looking at how long was it from Adam to Noah, and it was like 1656 years. But the first thing that came up was there's no evidence that Adam and Noah ever walked the earth. This is what we're up against. That's all I'm saying.
That's okay.
It's
That's
just,
fine. Everybody, we're just showing some interesting information, and you know, that's how we come to conclusions. Everybody's making an assumption, even us, based on the evidence we see.
but
So,
as a historical document, it's the most validated
oh
historical
yeah,
document. So there is evidence, but anyway, that's another. Okay. So the other question is, how could Noah build such a massive ark that would survive such a violent storm, a thrashing that, I mean, we've
Mm.
never seen.
Mm-hmm.
And in when you think about it, the genetics in those days were different. And like, how could he build it? 55, 75 years, okay, I think that's enough time. But the genetics of that day were much superior. And if you think about even early dynasties that we look at the building, like the Mayans built stone cities and the Roman engineering, and you just look at
Look
how
at the Egyptian pyramids.
exactly. And yeah, there's some interesting things about that from anyway. But the idea of improving over time is an evolutionary concept. But really it's, that goes against science, because we talked about in our last episode, the second law of thermodynamics, which is matter goes from greater to a lesser concentration. Anyway, dig it out. Okay.
I have to tell you what Herbie Herbie says, great point on the Nephilim, Carrie. This subject interests me. Honestly, we should have a show just about that.
Well, I think about angels in general.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
good and the fallen.
Yeah.
Because there's so much information.
If you guys are interested, post in chat, let us know, and we'll follow up. Yeah. All right.
Or
anything else you want to cover before we?
Well, you have some things to share on this. Where are the pre-flood human fossils?
Yeah. Well, I guess we can hit fossils first. I was thinking.
Well, the human fossils, because we have a ton of fossils of marine life.
Oh, you're posing that question.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Doubter question.
And I
now that is a good question worth pondering.
Where are the human fossils, Carrie?
It is a very good question. And so if we do look at it, the vast majority are marine fossils. And that's like 95% of the fossils are from shallow marine organisms like shellfish and coral. And then the remaining 5% are algae and plants and invertebrates. And then a very tiny percentage of that are fish. But yet they're not complete generally. They're like a bone.
Oh, I've got some complete fossils.
But in the Andes, the whales, yes. But generally speaking, the majority, as far as fossils, they're not complete, land mammals. Like, where are the land mammals? And
can I just so we've got dinosaurs, woolly mammoths, some of those land animals,
right?
And I don't know. They found humans they say are millions of years old, or thousands, 10,000, 20,000 years old. So there are human remains. But not with the animals.
But largely there are not human or land animals. And if there is a bone, or a fossil, it's like one bone. It's not a complete specimen. Whole body are very rare. But and so I was looking into it, and the cause might be that the hydraulic forces that were very destructive had a shearing force. I mean, it's a horrible thing to think of. And so the humans and the land animals just didn't survive the thrashing. And then we also had molten lava with the volcanic eruptions, and then you have after the flood, potentially, anyway, like carrion for in the ocean floating. I don't know. But there's also, it is true that if there is water that has enough oxygen in it that permeates the sandstone where the fossils are, it will oxidize the organic molecules and destroy them. So there's a lot of discussion about it, but
go ahead.
That's it.
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
and they found based off of early flood, mid flood. I think I have pictures for that actually. Let me see if I have those pictures. Well, maybe not. But they have mid flood, lower flood, early flood, high flood. And based on the timing of the flood, there's certain ocean animal fossils
Mhm,
that are found in the rock layers.
mhm,
And it's super interesting because they can literally track uh, the flood and the progress of the flood,
mhm.
and then the receding of the flood. It's so interesting. There's so
Yeah,
many fossils.
and the different layers of fossils that would just, layer upon layer upon layer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so some of them are still buried that they haven't gotten to.
Yeah, I've got to like. There's a lot of fish. The fish interest me so much
Mhm.
because how do you find fish and turtle fossils in the mountains? And a lot of these, this is just a quick search I threw up, but yeah, how do you find all of all of that? Because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, no, I mean, there are billions of fish and other fossils found worldwide. They're actually on every major mountain range on Earth.
Yes,
Okay. I mean, and many of these mountain ranges are thousands of feet above sea level.
yeah, marine fossils found on the highest mountaintops. Didn't
Yeah.
you have some
Yeah.
on the mountain?
Yeah. So, and there was something else that the marine fossils are at every stage of life, which indicates it was caused by a sudden and catastrophic event, which completely goes against evolution if they're at all
Right.
okay. But yeah, Media 2A is what they found in the Andes,
Yep.
and
That's what I had up.
yeah, so they found whale fossils. I think like 40 of them intact.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is really incredible. And this Dr. Novacek, who is the chairman of the American History Museum of Natural History, who was part of
Hmm.
this, his quote is, "The time it took for the fossils to rise from the ocean floor to the mountaintop was relatively brief."
Yeah, brief.
But of course, it's not the flood, and then they come up with all this other stuff like the mountain shot up, and the mountains did shoot up. There was a lot that was shifted through the power and force of the earth opening up for the water to come out, and just the power of the water.
Hmm.
The earth crust was just being shaken, and so yeah, we did see upthrusting of mountain tops.
Yeah, imagine the whole earth covered in water. Can you imagine? And then the earthquakes that went along with it.
Yeah, and that was your video in the beginning showed that, and the
Mhm.
lava,
Yeah.
you know? And, I found a lot of agnostic scientists that acknowledge the fossils got there rapidly, like, not thousands of years, not or millions, thousands, hundred not like, rapidly. And they're
Right.
agnostic. So some can be honest and come right out and say it. And then many of those who are proponents of this, like the tectonic plate shifts and the continental drift,
Yep.
actually say that it needs to happen that quickly to leave the evidence that we see with these fossils, that it
Hmm.
needs to happen um, very fast, and that it was likely caused by a flood. But
Yeah.
of course, they don't say Noah's flood, but yeah, that
I
kind of
actually,
force.
yeah, I found the we'll get back to your other mountain too. I did find the uh here's what they found. So pre-flood stromatolites, algae, just
Mhm.
trace fossils, not much pre-flood. And then early flood, they found smaller fossils. And then as you go up into like the mid flood and the end flood, you see bigger things like freshwater fish, crocodiles, dinosaurs. Then you see other reptiles, plants, um, and things like that. So it's interesting that there's layers of different kinds of animals based off of at what point the flood was in.
Yeah.
And they kind of show it here,
Hmm.
where you can see, you know, the life that was found based off of that. So I found that to be super interesting.
Well, they have these years though that are a little bit 49 million years.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what the scientists say, but it falls in line with the flood.
Exactly.
Is basically the point of this visual.
That's an important distinction.
Yep.
Because all that we talk about based on the biblical flood does align with them, except that they come up with these really old, millions and millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
And yeah, it's super interesting. Should I show your Mount Everest for me?
yeah, this is amazing because Mount Everest is 29,000 feet above sea level. It's the highest point on Earth.
Yeah.
And there is a sea floor of limestone and marine fossils at the summit, which is the tallest, the highest.
At the summit. That's the highest point on Earth.
It is. And Genesis 7:19 reads, "Then the water surged even higher, and all the high mountains under the whole sky were covered."
And one of the things I'm thinking is the flood could have even made, just because of all the shifting of the earth, the mountains even higher.
Oh, yeah.
I think some people, I don't know, there was an argument that people who believe there was a flood think that the water took away all the mountains. No, with the tectonic activity happening, that's what creates mountains.
Yeah, it created them more
Mhm.
likely. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
And then so let's look
that's
at the
incredible.
Yeah, that one right there just says it all.
Yeah, it just does. I mean, Mount
The highest
Everest.
point on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the Grand Canyon has a little different thing happening because it's 7,000 feet above sea level. I don't think I have a media for that.
No,
And-
I do though.
Oh, good. Let's see it.
So the Grand Canyon, yeah, I've got this video. I got to make sure I look to see when I end it. Yeah, let me let me cue it up. I just want to pause it real quick.
Okay.
Get it full screen here for everybody. So this guy's talking about the Grand Canyon. So super interesting stuff. I hope you guys can hear it. Moxie, let us know in chat if you can't.
A rock called schist and gneiss. These rocks form the core of the continent down deep, somehow related to Creation Week, I believe. Above those non-stratified rocks, we have a diagonally tilted package of sandstone and shale and limestone here visible from the rim that are likely Creation Week rock or even pre-flood but post-Creation Week rock, in other words, ocean floor at some time in the history of the Earth. Then on top of that, we have flat-lying strata on a beveled surface. And this beveled surface is rather obvious in back of us, but the flat-lying 4,000 feet of strata sits on this erosion surface, and that's called the Great Unconformity. And then on top of the Great Unconformity is that 4,000 feet of flat-lying strata up to the rim.
That brings us up to here?
That brings us right here to the Kaibab limestone on the rim. That 4,000 feet of strata is sandstone, a shale, and limestone. And it forms this broad blanket sequence that we see across North America and even to the world. I think that 4,000 foot interval and that scour surface underneath it, the Great Unconformity, represents the onset of the flood and the flood deposition. We have other strata in the Grand Canyon region. That's called the Grand Staircase. We have about 10,000 feet, 2 miles thickness of strata on top of the Grand Canyon.
Higher than where we are.
Higher than where we are, and that represents the later stages of the flood and the retreat of the floodwater. This surface was beveled.
Just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great find.
Super incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it's so interesting. I know we moved from fossils, and have another video on the fossils, but since we were talking about the mountains in the Grand Canyon,
Oh, that was great. It was perfect. And
yeah,
because he said that the lower might have been pre-flood, creation week,
yeah,
and then the higher elevations, especially the other area that was 2,000 feet higher, should have been post-flood.
yeah.
But what's really interesting is that the Grand Canyon in particular shows evidence of the inundation stage and the recessional, because like you were saying, how powerful water is. I mean, that gorge, I mean, a very powerful force went through there and carved it open.
It's incredible. You know, didn't we talk about like Mount St. Helens on our first show?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the Age of the Earth show, we talked about how it made sort of a mini Grand Canyon from the waters.
Yeah, and that was from an earthquake and a volcanic eruption. So very likely it was part of that, as well as the water inundation, because then we have those fossils. I mean, we have them all in the walls in the limestone.
But the Seattle, the water carved through
Yeah,
the earth within what? Hours, right?
Well, no, there was a dam breach, remember, within
Yes.
like 2 years later, and where there was no gorge, it carved a gorge. I mean, to the point
Right.
that you could see the sedimentary layers on the wall there.
And it happened quickly.
And it happened, that happened really fast, like
Really fast.
Yeah. So and that's what threw the whole, wrench into the spokes of the whole radiometric dating, which is through the columnal, geologic column. They would have dated it at 350,000 years, but it was like that. So, these grand estimates of billions of years, anyway, they're heavily invested. But there's something interesting about the Grand Canyon, is that there's one thing in common that they have. The sea lilies, it's their dismemberment. Yeah, it's not intact. And so the sea lilies have their discs and columnal totally separated. So that indicates a catastrophic event, like they all do. Right?
There's so much out there.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was a massive, powerful force, and a combination of all of it, all of that force, the volcanic eruptions, earthquake. Yeah.
Cool. Moxie, I have a question for you. Was that boat link you sent me from Peppa Q, or is that something you sent?
Did you? TikTok. Is that it?
No, I've got there's a TikTok video. Oh, from Q Wins. Okay, Q Wins.
Yeah.
We will pull that up when we at the end when we're done talking about the fossils, because we are going to be talking about that, which is the ark itself. But let's save that for last, and we will pull up your link. It looks pretty amazing.
Oh, the 4A? No. I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
okay.
I mean, out of chat. Yeah.
Right.
Peppa sent the link to the fossilized giants, but let's finish our fossils and the items we have, and then we'll pull up both of those.
Okay.
If you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the sedimentary curvy folded rocks. Let's look at that. Media 4A.
This is so cool.
It really is. So look at that.
That is so cool.
And so the only way that
it's like they're not only do they have layers, but then it bent.
Yeah. And so it forms from the sedimentary layers being laid down in rapid succession and then folded while they're still soft and pliable.
Ooh,
and
that's so cool.
These are found all over the world. And so there's, I think there's just a little diagram, but it's very basic. Tension pulls rocks apart. Compression squeezes them together. But the shearing, it stresses from two forces in opposite directions.
And that's what causes this.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, there's more evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
And then what about the story? Or do you have more on that?
On what?
Do you have more on the curvy rocks?
I don't have more on the curvy rocks. I just have one more thing on the fossils before we get to. We will get to the boat. We will get to the giants, and then we've got memes and not a meme segment. Our new.
Ooh, I can't wait. But wait, there is something else. There's the flood stories documented from all around the world.
Yeah.
That's another
good
one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But if you want to share some more fossils.
Sure. We can. Yeah. So basically, I'll quick finish the fossil talk and then we can talk about the stories around the world. But in the Answers in Genesis YouTube channel, they have so many good videos. I was going to pull up a couple of clips out of one of the videos. So I'm going to just cue that up really quick.
Okay.
And I'll make it full
Spoils
screen.
everything.
One of the, how come I can't make it full screen? What's going on? Let me refresh.
Spoils everything.
All right. There it is. My full screen thing went away. Okay. I'm going to show a clip really quick. If this doesn't prove that all these fossils died instantly, wait till you see the fish. He's going to show a picture of a fish, and then I'm going to fast forward to an animation of how they show an animation of this fish. But he's also going to talk about thorns, which I find super interesting.
Okay.
So what do we find in the fossil record? Is the fossil record a record of life? That's a record of death. You see living things crawling around in the rocks? No, you see dead things. And you see evidence of carnivory.
This.
Whoa.
Now, this is a fossil of a fish in mid-flight of eating another fish. So it's not like
that was sudden.
That was sudden.
Whoa.
I know, right? Isn't that so cool?
Oh my gosh.
So,
amazing.
yeah, so I'll continue this for a little bit and then I'm going to fast forward to the animation about this fish. But isn't that just incredible, the fish?
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
I mean, that fossil is out there in the corridor outside the special effects theatre, round the corner from the ice cream and the coffee. Animals eating animals. We see evidence of cancer, broken teeth, fractures that are healed. So there was violence. Mm-hmm. We also find fossilized thorns in the fossil record that are claimed to be 400 million years old. Now, but wait a minute. The Bible has a specific statement about thorns. When did thorns come into existence? Did God create thorns initially? No. Thorns came as a result of the curse after Adam and Eve sinned.
Yep. So I'm going to just fast forward it real quick too. Isn't that good?
Wow.
I've got one more clip up here about just the animation on the fish here.
And that's exactly what we find. 70% of the earth is covered of the continents is covered in fossil-bearing sedimentary rocks laid down.
70% of the world is covered with fossils.
And by water. But how do you get a fossil fish in the first place? Look at the beautiful state of preservation of that fish. Well, here's a fish about to have his breakfast, doesn't get time to swallow it before he's buried and fossilized.
Wow.
You get the point?
I just, that fossilized fish is so incredible.
Yeah.
And this YouTube channel is incredible. I couldn't stop watching their videos.
Like Answers in Genesis.
Yes.
I love them.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they answer everything
Mhm.
related to Genesis. They have a lot of scientific evidence and proof and stuff. So, um, yeah. Do we want to talk about how there's, you know,
The
stories and legends of floods in
Yeah.
everywhere?
There's yes, it's Media 5A. There's over 270 cultures with a history of the flood, of the flood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're all around the world, and you can see the green is the full representation of the biblical flood, and the orange is partial. But we're talking the Babylonia, um, Persia, Syria, Asia Minor, Greece, Egypt, Italy, Lithuania, Russia, China, India. It goes on all over the world,
This is great.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's cultures, religions, peoples, and if we remember in Genesis 6:9, when they were building the Tower of Babel, and against God, because God said, go and spread out
Yep.
and
And they
right,
didn't. They stayed. Yeah.
yeah, and it was in defiance. It was a rebellion, and they were
Mhm.
wanting to build it to the heavens to protect them from another flood, even though God promised He would never do that. Anyway,
Yeah.
they
He
wanted
did. He promised no more
never
floods.
again.
Mhm.
And so they wanted to be like God. Sound familiar? And so they were there about 100 years, and this relates to these stories. And so then God confused their language, and they moved and formed other nations, right? And so think about it. I mean, did they carry the knowledge of the flood with them? And that's how it's embedded in all of the history in
Yeah.
all the cultures around the world.
Carried down stories from generation to generation.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
it's so interesting. Even Hawaii has it's almost identical. It's Nu'u and his family in sons and daughters. And China has the same story as well. 3 sons and daughters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there's so many, and it's really interesting. So there you have that.
That's incredible. Super incredible. I just need to save something real quick. So I do want to get to the boat, but
Boat.
let's see what
Ark.
should we see what Peppa sent us?
Oh, okay.
Uh
Do you want to look at it first?
Gigantic humans did
Oh.
exist. They are petrified. Research Tartarian.
I've seen that rock shaped as animals and humans. Kind of is creepy and weird, isn't it?
Well, we could include this in our angel episode.
Oh yeah.
That'll include the fallen and the Nephilim.
Yeah, those hands looked weird in the rocks.
Yeah. Well, supposedly our own military has seen the giant of Kandahar, I think, in Afghanistan.
Well, and they
So
found bones. This is a long video, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but they found bones too.
yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah, through archaeology.
are you talking about fossils or because
No,
there's
bones.
just
They say they're
post flood?
yeah. It's not. I'm not even talking about the flood. I'm just
Okay.
talking about.
Okay, we're digressing.
We are. All right. Should we talk about the ark?
Sure. Or yeah.
Well, you have something, and then we had
As in the anomaly?
Q Wins has something we can share too.
As in the anomaly?
Yes. Should I bring that up?
Did you
Should we
want
talk about it first?
Did you want to look very quickly at the young earthers or the worldwide flood?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss something?
No, I thought you wanted to just because you had set it off, earlier in the week that because the young earthers believe in a worldwide flood and old generally believe in localized.
Yeah. Yeah. The localized doesn't make sense to me.
It makes no sense. So we could just really be very
Like there's proof all over the world. And I
right.
mean, yeah, I don't have any media or anything about that. But there are people with different theories. Some have theories of it being a localized flood. And let me ask this question. If it's a localized flood, why would God have Noah take all the animals of every kind? And he said he was going to destroy all flesh.
Bingo.
Say flesh over here.
Exactly. Like the whole purpose of the flood it is thwarted if it's localized. And so the people that believe it's localized, it was in the Mesopotamian Valley, which is Iraq. But if God only flooded locally, then why would he need to promise never to flood again? And then we have had local floods again. So, but I mean, the purpose of the flood, the purpose of the ark to hold all the animals, because if there were other animals somewhere else, then Noah wouldn't have to get all the animals to preserve them because they'd be over here.
Right. They would just be able to walk across the land.
Yeah.
And be safe and go across land bridges.
And I mean, Noah could take his family on a holiday and get away from the flood too. I'm joking, but
nobody's found the ark supposedly, but maybe we have. I don't know.
Let's take a look. Yeah, because in Genesis, which it says that at the end of when all the water finally settled, that the ark settled on the mountain range of Ararat.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's an anomaly found on Ararat.
Yes. One that was photographed in 1949 by a civilian. And then later in the 70s with U-2 spy planes, and the CIA and the Defense Intel Agency conducted analysis. And
here's the close-up, because I'm like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell. Okay.
But everything that they documented is classified. Why is it classified?
Why?
Yeah. Now, there are people that believe that it was found, and they claim it was found, and there's wood that's been pulled out, but I did not look into all that. There was some wood, but it was not gopher wood, which is what God told Noah to use. So I don't know if that's what it is. And
this is an interesting image, though.
It is
way in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
I mean, there's a school of thought among Christians that it was found, and then with Christians that it's not the ark. And I mean, it doesn't really matter. It'd be interesting, but then you have to think about what if after the flood, I mean, for fuel, I kind of imagine all
who knows?
They could have taken it apart and used it, the wood. I mean, think about everything you could build with that. So there's a lot of reasons for and against. I think it would be amazing.
Yeah.
If it was. And I think if it does exist, that in the right timing, God will show it. But I did watch a documentary years ago where it appears to be guarded by the Turkish military, like an entrance into an area that, anyway.
I'll pull up what Q Wins posted in chat. Thank you for the link, by the way.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. This is a website called Noah's Ark Scans. The mountain of Ararat. So this is Ararat as well. So these are more clear pictures, like super clear. Is that a video? No, it's not. Really interesting outline here.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people say, oh, it's like on Mount Ararat itself, but the Bible says it's in the mountain range. So
the range,
They say they've been looking in the wrong area, but
That's super interesting, though. This is a really cool picture. I'll have to poke around here and see what this project's all about. But it's an interesting website as a reference for folks. Thank you so much, QWins.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. That was a good find to share. Yeah, so I will remove that. I do know, was there anything else around Noah's Ark you wanted to talk through before we get to our memes and our not a meme segment? I'm excited for not a meme.
No, I just have one verse from Psalm, with
Sure.
David.
Oh,
And
yeah, I've got one closing thing for that too. So
Okay.
go ahead.
it's Psalm 104, 8-9. It's the mountains rose and the valleys sank down to the place that you appointed for them. You set a boundary that they may not pass, so that they might not again cover the earth.
Ah,
So that's the promise of never flooding the earth again. But thought that was cool. And Peter does talk about, I think it's First or Second Peter, about the flood as well. So it's Old Testament and New Testament. But
okay.
yeah, so we can move on. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's not the one I wanted. Where's my timeline? I do have, sorry, I just need to see what I called it. It's under, let me just resave it. Maybe I have the wrong folder. All right. Here. So I kind of wanted to tie it all together.
Okay.
So creation was the first, 0 to 5 days, and then creation to Adam. And then from Adam to Abraham, there is approximately 2,000 years. And then Abraham to Jesus, 2,000 years. And then Jesus to today is 2,000 years. And through that, like Noah was what, 900, 600 years old?
When
The flood.
during the flood, he was
Yeah.
600. When they got off, he was 601. So that's
Yeah.
the year. So yeah.
Yeah. So
he
I just
lived like
I just-
300 more years, 300 some odd more years.
right. And there's evidence through the genealogy that's right in the Bible,
Yeah.
through Noah and through to Jesus, and through today.
Mm-hmm.
The number of generations between Adam and Abraham, I think it was like 14, something like that. And then Abraham to Jesus. And it's like the Bible has the entire history of the world,
Yeah.
the entire history. Like there is no prehistory. There's nothing prehistoric. There's
no authenticated document of pre-biblical history, and there's no other religious text or otherwise that can that goes through creation.
right.
And, I mean, all of it. It's just in salvation, and it's the Bible, and that's it.
Yep. So, all right. Let's hit our memes, shall we? We like to do memes of the week and memes that are related to our show.
Yeah.
So let's start with some of Carrie's memes, and I actually created a couple. So.
Oh, did you? You made some?
Oh no, I'm not I just used like a meme creator.
Oh, okay.
All right. Sometimes faith will make you look stupid until it starts to rain.
Yeah.
That is like fire.
Yeah, because he was ridiculed. Everyone was like, "What are you doing?" Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it hadn't ever rained before. People didn't even know what rain was. It had
Ooh,
never rained.
that's a good point.
Yeah, so they're like, "You're like," they thought he was completely insane. So.
And then we've got Noah was a conspiracy theorist, and then it started to rain.
Yeah.
That's a good one too. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. In every conspiracy, it just takes 6 months in our time for the conspiracy to be proven true. In Noah's time, it was 600 years.
It was 75. It took, with
Oh yeah,
75. Yeah, it took a little longer then, but no, it's really fast now.
yeah. Bidenomics. Noun, the rising cost of voting stupid. I know, and Biden's trying to embrace the Bidenomics. Okay, gas prices are hiked up again.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the next one. And the Lord said, "Nope, this is mine." This, I think, is one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
'Cause
love
that's
it.
what the rainbow is. It's what he
It's God's
gave us.
promise.
It represents his promise, and of course the enemy wants to use it for,
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we've got the top is let's lose the fossils, but keep the fuel. So Carrie had to explain this one to me. I have to tell you guys. Carrie had to
You were
explain.
tired.
I was tired, but it looks like one big sentence. And I'm like, couldn't the text be up at the top so that I would have gotten it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for explaining it to me, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Whoops. All right. Next, I wasn't going to pull this up, but why not? Name something the government can stick up their bleep.
Math,
I think
lockdown,
all of the above, to be honest.
vaccine, digital ID, carbon tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is me. This completely describes me.
Totally. Me too.
Check on your conspiracy theory friends. They haven't had a day off all year. Even on my days off for work, I'm constantly researching. I love this one. All right. I came to America. Well, welcome home, weary traveler. So this guy is
Coming into Texas.
coming into Texas, and this guy who probably lives in Illinois or San Francisco.
Right.
But then he's like, I'm going to go here to New York. And they're like, no, we don't have the resources. So,
I mean, that's what's happening in New York. We are, so.
Eric Adams, mayor of New York, is now realizing,
Chicago too.
and I got one more meme, and then we're going to get to not a meme, and you'll see what I mean by not a meme. Oh no, I've got a couple more that I forgot I created a couple. I did not create this one, but I love this one. This is Noah's dog. Noah's greatest ordeal. Will you hurry up? Isn't that cute? I love that cartoon. Let's see. This is a bad dad joke. If anyone needs an arc, I happen to know a guy. I didn't create that one either. God did not create the earth and the universe from nothing. Who created God then? So, but they'll believe, yes, the Big Bang happened and instantly everything was created from nothing.
Yeah.
I did create this one.
No one plus nothing equals everything.
Exactly.
Just give them one miracle and then they can explain it all.
Yeah. Fossils were buried millions of years ago. Fish fossils were found on mountaintops. I created this one.
I like it.
I
love that little cat.
Oh, I already did the dog. So I've got one more video meme. Then we'll get to not a meme. We don't have as many not a memes, and they are hilarious. But let me go ahead and play this.
Hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Ow, ow, ow. Show them, girl, yeah. Boom, boom, bow, bow, boom, 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 bow, 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 boom, boom, bow, 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 boom, boom. Ow, grrr.
What the heck?
Gen Z. I'm sorry, but I cracked up so much with that video that I had to show it on the show. Yes. Sorry, I'm a little bit crazy. I've got 3 nada memes. I think you'll get the drift when we start watching these. Okay. Biden says he's a professor.
We got to fight for it. I taught at the University of Pennsylvania for 4 years, and I used to teach political theory. And folks, you always hear every generation has to fight for democracy.
I don't know if you guys could hear that very well. It sounded quiet to me. Did it sound quiet to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was low. Very
It was
low.
super low. I didn't know it would be that low, but basically he said he was a professor. That's
And he-
not a meme, by the way.
Political theory.
Yeah. Then here's a gal who thought she was getting Matt Gaetz, and she thought she was getting him good.
Okay.
The defense appropriations bill this week
No, I didn't.
The rule.
No, you're wrong.
The
No,
rule to
Abby, this is going to be a very embarrassing moment when the internet corrects you on this. I voted for the defense rule both times.
Well, I stand corrected.
Okay, I got one more not a meme. This one tops the cake.
Okay.
And Karin, you can speak to that a lot. You already sort of talked to us about this huge movement that you've created around queer and climate this week.
Queer and climate. Let's listen to that again.
Climate affects gender, gender affects climate. And Karin, you can speak to that a lot. You already sort of talked to us about this huge movement that you've created around queer and climate this week.
Oh, so I don't know why it didn't play it from the beginning, but climate affects gender, and gender affects climate. Didn't you know?
Oh. Bizarre. But let's not play that song.
How bizarre! How bizarre! I don't think we got
It really
kicked off of
is.
YouTube for that. I don't think we did.
Oh, that's good.
I honestly should clip that so I can play it once in a while. Oh, this was a good show. It was a good show.
Yeah, it was great.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate all your comments.
Thank you.
And love all your comments here. So, Prayer Warrior says Islam believes in Adam and Eve, which is interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah, the Old Testament.
They believe in a lot of the same events, including the flood. So yeah, I agree, and I all the religions actually talk about the flood, and many religions believe, at least the ones that believe in creation, know about Adam and Eve and have that even in their text, in their religious text. So
yeah, they go a little different with Hagar and Abraham and Ishmael. That whole situation. But
we won't get in. Yeah, we don't
No,
need
we
to get
won't.
into that. But thank you everybody
you,
for
Ruby.
joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm not sure what our next topic will be, but we'll let you know.
We'll do angels really soon.
Yeah, I want to do angels soon. That
Yeah.
should be an interesting one.
Yeah.
All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you
Good
so
night,
much,
everyone.
Good night.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright